Hello and welcome to Bootleg Macro. I'm Dustin. Today we're going to talk about KWEB, which is the Chinese Consumer Internet ETF. Let's dive in. Now looking at the daily for KWEB, we can see it's come off of a very V bottom here. It went all the way down to $19 as of recently as October of 2022, but it's currently rebounded almost 50% all the way up to about $30. That's a stunning move in a short period of time, and it's something I want to investigate. Looking here at KWEB's trade card, what we can see is that in the past 3 months, this thing has already moved 58% off of its lows, which is an incredible feat. And then when you add in the fact that recently it's moved almost down 4.5%, you start to see that there's a big opportunity to continue to ride the trend and buy the dip in Chinese consumer stocks. Now looking at KWEB volatility, we can see that the volatility continues to trend lower, but on the bottom in the blue what we can see is that the daily correlation of price to volatility is that it's currently rising. So what we'd hope to expect here is that the volatility would end up stop going down because it can't go below zero, and that the correlation starts to fall as volatility starts to rise. I mean, maybe that's the best setup for right now. It could suspect that we'd have a little bit more choppiness in the near future, but hopefully what we'd see is maybe if correlation stays high and then volatility starts to rise, the price gets some very aggressive jerky movement upward, and or we have a little bit more consolidation period before we resume the bull run. Looking at weekly sentiment here, what we can tell is that KWEB sentiment has pretty much gotten back to neutral. It's been consistently above 50% since the bottom in November and October, but since then we've been able to consistently just see a run along that trend line above the 50% line, which means that demand is very much in control of KWEB at the moment. Now looking here at daily sentiment for KWEB, we can see that it's been consistently falling since the beginning of 2023. Since the beginning of January and now into February, all we've seen is the bullish sentiment continue to drop. And when we look here at the chart, we can kind of tell what we've seen is essentially a consolidation pattern. Seeing how 36 has pretty much been resistance, and now we see that the prices continue to fill the gap from the very beginning of 2023. Now let's go ahead and take a look at daily sentiment for KWEB based on the numbers. Looking at KWEB on the daily sentiment, we can see here at the beginning of January, on January 4th and 5th, that's when the bullish sentiment started to actually roll over and start to get negative and lower every single day. And it seems that it hasn't actually recovered that since the beginning of 2023. So we'd expect to see at least some continued choppiness, if not a little bit more fall in the price of KWEB. But eventually we're going to hit a point, since this is a stochastic process, where you're going to hit the lower bound of what's possible and you're going to have to get some mean reversion type moves here in KWEB and Chinese consumer. Now what I'm highlighting here on the very first column right next to falling bear is actually the 10-day rolling average of bullish sentiment, which is already down to 39%. And knowing how my process works, once you get to the high 30s, low 40s, you've really started to hit either the lowest that the bullish sentiment can go, or you're starting to see a bottom in the price. Now, we would expect to see this either hold in this area, if it's in the low 30 or low 40s, high 30s for a little while, and kind of just base there, but you're not going to see it flush out to like 32 or 31. You're just going to see it hover around, maybe as low as it could go to 35. But knowing this starts to give us a really good entry place, a really good setup, a really good opportunity to be able to use KWEB to our advantage, because let's use the Chinese consumer internet to make some money, since they've been using their internet to make some money off of us. Now looking here at KWEB, when we're looking at its daily non-sentiment train range, which is essentially just a standard probability of outcomes for the stock based on its recent price movement. We're looking at the price being at the exact bottom of its trade range, while we're expecting that bullish sentiment should continue to return into the stock. So what we would expect is over the next 3 to 6 weeks, we would start to see bullish sentiment start to rise and continue to carry KWEB to a higher price than $36. The last thing that I want to call attention to today is just for KWEB is my signal tracker. When I look at how I count if a signal is flipped from a bearish or bullish perspective, I will count it as a 1, and then I'll have it be tracked for a certain amount of time so that you can get a general rolling average of how the signals are starting to correlate to what the price action is. What I find to be really fascinating is that the bearish sentiment or the bearish ticker signals are all the way up to 14, but the correlation next to it's actually dropping, or it's actually rising. Because you had a negative high 80 correlation, you can see that the prices went in white background with red lettering, which means that it is at the highest level that it can be, above 80%. Which means that now that we're starting to get more confirmation signals of bearish action, the price is actually starting to act more bullish, which is another signal to me that what we're starting to see is the bottoming process in this bearish sentiment or in the bullish sentiment, and we're going to start to get a continued rise in bullish sentiment inside of KWEB as more and more demand comes back into the individual market. Just an idea, just a thought. Take what you want, keep what you don't, and just let me know what you think in the comments. Have a good day.